Hello, thank you again for joining me on the Football and Feelings podcast. I spoke to Jamie Wills today, who came through the ranks at West Brom when he was quite young. As he got older, coming towards the first team, he was sort of caught between, he felt like he lost his passion for the game, and there's maybe a bit of anxiety there about whether or not he really was good enough. So it was really interesting to see his perspective coming through the academy and that sort of thing. And to see what life is like after football, because when you commit to something and it is your life for so long and then it's taken away from you, or you decide not to do it anymore, in his case, it could be quite hard to adjust potentially. So it was really great to get his perspective. If you enjoy it, give us a like, subscribe. And if you want to email into the show with a question or a suggested guest, it's contact@footballandfeelings.co.uk. Are you still going to West Brom much?
I am for my seasons, mate. Yeah. Dragging my kids down there, kicking and screaming.
You have a season ticket?
No, mate, don't have time for that. To be honest with you, with work and the kids, so probably go down once a month, something like that.
How old are they?
7 and 10.
They're enjoying it?
Yeah, I think they like the foot-long hot dogs, if I'm being honest, as opposed to the football half the time. But yeah, no, they enjoy it. It's a good club, good family club. So.
There was no chance of them being a Wolves fan or a
No,
Villa fan, was there?
I'd throw them out of the house. It's absolutely non-negotiable. On the street.
Are they a big fan of football? Do they play or?
Yeah, well, the older one more rugby. The younger one, he's a decent little footballer, but just trying to get him into it. Really, he's a bit shy, believe it or not. He must get it from his mother, but he's talented. He's got a bit about him. So.
Do you remember playing when you were that young?
Yeah, I remember it really well. From probably the age of 6. I remember the tryouts for the local team in Solihull over the park in the rain and the wind and the frost and freezing your bits off. But yeah, very happy days.
Yeah.
Very happy.
Were you a striker?
I was actually, mate. Yeah, I was actually a left winger, so I got useless on my right foot. Used to be quick when I was thin and young, many moons ago, mate.
Underplaying yourself, Jamie?
No, I used to score a few. So I had 7 in one game was a record for the region. I'm sure that's been long obliterated.
Wow. Sign him up.
Yeah, and then made me way backwards. Yeah.
So how did? I know you got picked up by West Brom. How old were you when that happened?
I was, probably 10, something like that. Okay, so it was like the under 11s, yeah.
How did that come about?
Just from playing from a good local side, scoring a few goals, and just scouts really. They'd come down and watch. Exactly, nothing fundamentally's changed now other than the age. They try and pick them up. As we were mentioning a little bit earlier now, it's getting younger and younger because of the money involved in the game, which I don't really agree with, because it takes a little bit of the fun out of the game, which there's a lifetime to do that. So
when you got picked up by Villa, West Brom, sorry.
Oh, I swear, honestly,
curse words.
Yeah.
When you got picked up by them, were you a West Brom fan before that?
Being brutally honest, I was sort of. My dad's a massive Villa fan, and he used to take me down the Holt End when I was little. We used to carry a bucket down there and literally stand on the terrace watching Tony Daly and Cascarino and these sorts of characters. So I was taken down the Villa. I kind of enjoyed it, but ever since I got involved with West Brom, it's a brilliant club, really good, friendly family club. Never any trouble down there, and I've been a fan ever since.
How did you feel when that came about? Because obviously that never happened to me. I can't imagine. I'm an Arsenal fan. I can't imagine randomly getting recruited by Arsenal and I'm going to.
You might have a chance now, to be fair.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It just seemed a natural thing, really, because again, it was just something that I was good at. I was saying to your colleague earlier, I can't draw. I can't wire a plug still. There's a lot of stuff I can't do. Awful with musical instruments, even ruined a triangle. But I was just good at kicking a football, so it's kind of all you know, really. So I was really pleased, and one fond memory I had. The local Evening Mail Birmingham picked up the story when I signed schoolboy forms at I think 15, and had photo in there with Ozzy Ardiles, who was the manager at the time. So that was pretty cool, meeting him, and I was actually the same size as him at 15, and I'm quite small. So
Was it him that signed you?
yeah, well, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say 15 signing School of Excellence forms. So that was interesting. But yeah, he was tiny. But yeah, first time I'd sort of met, a bit of a legend, really.
Yeah,
Didn't really quite understand, probably at the time, but still got the photo at home in the shed somewhere, I think.
So you only look back on those times with fond memories, I presume.
Yeah, massively. As I said, sport, you meet some brilliant people and some really good friends and have a right good laugh as well.
What was the culture like is there like a dressing room culture at that young of an age? How does that work? Because obviously you're just sort of just hanging around with your mates playing football.
Yeah.
To a certain extent when you're that age.
Yeah, at that age, obviously you're only playing, probably training once a week with the pro clubs back then. So you never really got. There was never a sort of you were nervous. It was professional. It was exciting. But there was a lot of throughput of different people. So there'd be people coming in and out on trial all the time. So it was difficult really to get much of a culture going because you were there sort of very, very part time. I guess things change when you go full time, and that was a bit later down the track. Yeah.
Did you go full time eventually?
Yeah. So left school. I was offered what they classed back in the day as a 2-year apprenticeship YTS scheme, which basically meant you got paid absolute sod all. So these visions of footballers earning loads of money, it's the top 1% and still is really. So I was offered a 2-year YTS scheme, which was full time. So that was really exciting. Had a hell of a party when I found out about that. Woke up 3 days later, but it was brilliant. But obviously, it stops you then going to college and university and the usual route. So again, I'm sure we'll come on to these things, but there's knock-on effects to people that people don't see.
Yeah.
But I couldn't turn the opportunity down. It was
of course,
opportunity of a lifetime.
Did you have like a role model around you that was you went to Villa with your dad at the time? Did he sort of support you and push you into that, or was it all on your own accord?
Nah, my dad was phenomenal. To be fair, I was very lucky. Very lucky with the family and the backing. To be fair, it's now at my age with younger lads, you only now appreciate the the dedication, the support, the time, the cost, the travel. Of your parents. It's all very well when you're 15, 16, 17, 18 playing football and. Running around, you get hot, you're having fun. I now know what it's like to stand on the side of a pitch while the wind's howling and the rain's hammering down, and it ain't much fun, I can tell you. So no, I was very lucky. My dad was incredibly supportive. Give me a little shove along occasionally when it was needed. I think which all kids probably do, but he was never, never pushy about it, or he was just very supportive and. Yeah, I was very lucky to be fair to him. Yeah.
That's one thing I never appreciated when I was playing like Sunday league, just playing in horrible places at 10:30 on a Sunday morning. I almost was oblivious to the fact that had to become a part of my parents' day, and it wasn't already. They weren't going to be doing that already. They had to turn up, just getting covered in rain, covered in mud. And bless them, they don't even like football either, my parents.
Wow.
So they were just doing it for me.
Yeah, true love, isn't it? No, you don't. I think that's the beauty as well with my boys now. You don't want your kids to have to think about the sort of, you just want to let them get on with it. I think I was about, looking back, probably about 25. I went out for a few beers with my dad one night and, just sat there and thanked him. And that was probably the first time, because it wasn't until you sort of look back and grow up a little bit that you appreciate the commitment from, and it's like the same with all the pro players now. It's the families around them and the friends around them, and the girlfriends, wives, mums, dads. It's massive.
It's crucial, isn't it? To have a support network around you.
Yeah.
You still feel like you have that now that you're not in the game? Do you still feel like you have that?
Yeah, I think they still like me still. But now I'm very lucky. Just got a brilliant family. A lot of people didn't and don't. So again, I'm conscious. I'm very fortunate. And you see I played with a lot of players, and you see a lot of players now. They clearly haven't got the right people around them in their ear, and you see some really super talented people. And I played with some phenomenal people that have never made it professionally because of the support infrastructure's not there, or the wrong influences, or there's so many factors that can come into it. But yeah, having a solid family base is fortunate and key, I think.
So when you were at West Brom, did they have like a support network within the club, or is it very much of like just a chain of players coming along? We'll have him, won't have him.
Yeah,
A wheel.
I'm afraid to say it was a little bit of the latter. With all due respect, I am going back, a few years now. I'm 41 now, so it was a few years back. But the game's come on so much in many ways, not so much in many others, which we'll probably talk about later. So no, there wasn't really an emphasis on what happens to the people that doesn't make it, and that's the majority. So coming back to the YTS days, you'd probably have 13, 14 lads every year taken on, and there was the first years and the second years, so a sort of a squad, if you like, of 25, 28 players. Obviously, the second years they'd come to the end, and the club would have to make a decision: who do they take, professionally or not? And the success rate there, they probably take maximum 2, maybe 3, but normally 2, sometimes 1 out of 13 or 14 every year, and that's just from YTS to sign professional forms. So it just shows you the success rate. Yet all of these lads have probably, a lot of them used to travel from all over Bristol, Manchester, move down here, but the success rate following those 2 years was very low. And again, these are the things that a lot of people don't get to see. And back in the day when I was doing it, it was there was virtually no emphasis on what about the players that don't make it, which is the majority.
Yeah,
so
and those years as well, they're such influential years in deciding how your future is going to be, and you're giving them up to play football, and then all of a sudden you're told, no, you can't be doing that anymore. Obviously you might find another club if you're lucky, but then you've given up, like you say, those college years, and then I don't know, it's hard to judge where you could go from there, I guess.
Yeah, massively. And as I said, that statistically, it was the majority didn't get taken on. And you're right, you're sort of 2 years behind. We did, as part of the apprenticeship, you'd go on a day release.
Right. That sounds nice.
It does, yeah. And it was very, very funny back in the day, but looking at it now, it shows you how far away it was. There was literally, we used to meet up at St Andrews, and so you'd have all the Midlands clubs. I think it was Wednesdays or Thursdays, and so we'd all meet up at St Andrews from all, Warsaw Wolves, the Villa lads, the Blues lads. So it was brilliant. So you there's some cracking lads, still good friends now. And the criteria literally was 5 GCSEs and above, you get on this coach, and you go to Henley College in Coventry and do a 2-year HND in business and finance, I think it was. Less than 5 GCSEs, you go on this coach and you go and do a life-saving course for 2 years. And I kid you not, that's what it was. Luckily, I managed to scrape 8 or 9 GCSEs, so I got on the Coventry coach. So that was kind of the investment into education, pretty minimal. Yeah.
See, I can't imagine that, because now our generation, we're told, regardless of your sort of educational ability, you can still do anything realistically, even if you have to take another route like doing BTECs at college. It's nothing like that now, nothing at all. Back to the sort of team culture when you were playing. You hear a lot of ex-pros talking about how when they were younger, they would be like washing the first team players' boots and stuff like that. Yeah. Was that right when you were around?
Yeah, it was. As I said, back when I was doing it, I think it was £37.50 a week you earn. So you ended up having to, sell your match day tickets if you're living away in digs and stuff. So most of the lads, you'd get 2 tickets for a game and first team game. So most of the guys would nip out of the stadium down to the corner, sell their tickets for 10 or 15 quid just to top up their wages. So, the whole notion of football and money and fame and all that sort of stuff, as I say, it's there, but it's the really is the top 0 point whatever percent. Yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't change any of it, but some tough times as well, to be fair.
Yeah. What age did you stop playing? How did that come about?
Yeah, I feel fortunate in my kind of story, really, that it was kind of in my control. It wasn't taken away from me by, you hear the sob stories of ruptured ankles and cruciates and broken legs and all that sort of good stuff. None of that was for me. So I did the 2 years YTS scheme, and very fortunately there was myself and another lad called Lee Knight, who ironically was the only other local Birmingham lad. So of the 14 of us, 13, 14 that got took on in our year, there was only me and Lee from the Midlands, and so slightly ironically, the only two of us that were given a professional contract at the end of the 2 years was myself and Lee, and all the other guys went back, as I say, to Bristol, Manchester, London, and sort of, moved on that way. But yeah, so signed a professional contract, which was brilliant, did some incredible things and had the amazing opportunity of playing at Old Trafford and places like that. It was pretty cool. But I got to a point I just wasn't enjoying it. I know it sounds very hard to sort of believe, really, because it's it's the national sport, I guess. But the simple thing was, as I said earlier, it was just the thing that I was good at. No good at art, no good at music, can't sing, can't wire a plug. Didn't massively enjoy school. I was always fairly bright and got the grades I needed, but that really wasn't the route for me. It was just I was good at kicking a football, so that's all I knew from the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, all the way through to 18 at the end of your YTS, and then got took on professionally. That's all I knew.
So you almost felt obliged to do it, obligated to do it, just because that was sort of all you knew to a certain extent.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go that far. I mean, it was brilliant, don't get me wrong, and I look back now and some of the things I've done and seen and experienced through it are brilliant, and as I say, I feel very, very lucky and fortunate to do so. But the realities of football was, we'd start training at 9:30, finish at 11, half 11 some days. I was never into golf, which was a bit of a rarity, so literally all the first team and most of the pros would go and play golf, go to the Belfry, whatever. I didn't, and I found myself sort of, bored, for want of a better word, to be fair. And the days became quite long, and just didn't get the buzz from it that you need. It's like anything. Talent is, talent's 50%. It really is at best. Mindset and attitude and real love for the game. It's like anything, you've got to have the passion for it, and for whatever reason, as I say, I didn't live it and breathe it. I was just good at it. So when I did leave, I left on my terms. I was offered an opportunity with Walsall to go and sign for them and probably go into their first team, but as I said at the time, I just had enough with the game, really. And then, as I said, looking back, wouldn't change anything. Took the opportunity, went to America and did 3 summers coaching over there in Texas and California, and did some brilliant stuff. So I can look back and I don't feel bitter about it, because I kind of, as I said, I walked away from the game, not
on your own terms.
Yeah. Look back now, I wouldn't mind 200 grand a week. Don't get me wrong, Liam. That'd be pretty cool. But no, you make decisions based on everything at the time, and so I can sleep easy and look back now fondly and
so you don't have any
realise how lucky I was.
You don't have any regrets at all?
Yeah.
Wonder
now,
a little bit how it could have been.
Yeah, now I sort of you look back and hindsight and everything's great, but I've always been very committed that whatever age I've been, I make decisions based on the full picture and the circumstance at the time, and I know that at the time that was the right thing for me to do, as I say, and I've been very, very fortunate, and walked away pretty unscathed, really. Yeah.
How did the coaching in America come about?
My good friend, who's now quite senior at Tottenham, we were sat around one day at Solihull College. I went back to Solihull College to sort of, having travelled a bit and coached, I came back and said, well, what do I do with my life now? At this point, I'm sort of 20 years of age, 21, and I'm going, haven't been to university, no degree, been kicking a football. What do you do? And we were just chatting one day, and there was I think it was like a BUNAC, I don't know if that still exists, but it was like a student travel program that they ran at Solihull College, and they said, right, anyone who's interested in, working in soccer camps and doing, normal camps over in America, come along. So I grabbed hold of my mate Nathan, who's say he played for Walsall YTS, and that's where we met on the bus, the Coventry bus. I may hasten to add, the 5+ GCSE, and we were just great mates, and I dragged him to listen to this speech, and we both, you know, loved travel and had a bit of fun, and we said, right, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And that was it really. Looked into it a little bit more, and then we were approached by a company that run soccer camps in Texas. Offered us much better money than doing a normal summer camp job, less hours, purely kicking a football around.
Yeah.
So it didn't take a lot of selling really.
Yeah. So did you never think that you could have gone into like the sort of standard coaching route?
Didn't have didn't have any interest in it, to be honest. I took my UEFA B licence, just failed that by 20. I got 24 out of 25. So I was a mark short. I still don't know what I missed out on, but again, I think it was a bit of a sign. But the reality was that the difference between football or soccer in America and here was obviously night and day. And over there, it was, you know, warm weather, good money, people, you know, appreciated your knowledge and your help. Whereas the bits of coaching that I did for the FA over here, you know, the weather was mostly rubbish. All the parents, you know, believe they are, you know, Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola, and their kids are the best players in the history of the world. So it's just a very, very different environment, and so that was never an option for me, really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Could you see yourself coaching the Sunday League teams of your boys?
Oh, do you know, that's an internal battle that I've been having for years, and I'm sort of half glad my 10-year-old actually plays rugby, not football, but the 7-year-old. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because what's really hard is I go along to watch the training, and the quality is awful. There's no other way of putting it, right? It's awful. However, I very quickly then check myself and say, I also know that the time and the dedication that the people who do this and commit to this is unbelievable. And if they weren't doing it, there would be no team for my kid to go and play in. But I massively understand and know the thankless task that these guys do, especially in the grassroots. Massive hats off to them. But as I say, I think there's a massive lack of coaching standards and education and quality. But as I say, I can't really overly criticise if I'm not prepared to step in. If the 7-year-old gets into a team, and you know, it'd probably be very hard for me to not get involved by just by default. But I'm trying to put it off as long as possible.
You could be the aggressive lino maybe in the future.
Yeah, the biased one who just flags purely for our stuff. Yeah, possibly that's an option.
Going back to your West Brom days, do you remember when you realised that you didn't want to play anymore? Was there like a certain day that sort of came about?
I think I can't remember the exact game, to be fair, but I think the tipping point, there was. I was training really well. Obviously, a young pro at the time, training with the first team, doing really, really well. Getting picked, you know, we'd have games every day, and you know, I was getting picked, you know, 5th or 6th or 7th, something like that, out of 25 squad, and that was including the first team at the time. So you had all the, you know, the top players in there. So I was playing really, really well, playing well for the reserves, getting man of the match for a couple of games, and there was an injury at left back, which is where I played in the first team. And the manager at the time, Alan Buckley, really nice guy, funny, very interesting character. He basically put a centre half at left back in the first team, and you know, myself and I think probably quite a lot of the lads really were expecting me to get the call up. So I guess that moment there, I sort of looked at it and I thought, you know, if he doesn't fancy me and going to give me the shot now, I'm not sure what else I can do really. So I guess that was probably the moment. And then they got turned over 3-0 on the weekend, and the left back. I won't name names. I won't name names, but yeah, the left back, who was a centre half, to be fair, got murdered. So, but that was pretty much it really, and my mind was made up, and I came home, spoke to my dad and my parents, and just went, that's enough for me really.
How did that feel to not get the call up then? That must have been quite hard to take.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised, is probably the word, because all the lads were sort of going, right, you know, you're in here, this is the chance, you know, get ready, blah, 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 blah. And then when it doesn't come, it's a bit of a kick in the nuts, to be fair. But football, as I said, it's a really harsh world out there, and it's a bit like any employment, really. If the manager at the time doesn't like you for whatever reason, if he doesn't fancy you, you're not going to get a look in. And it's the same today. You know, there's players get frozen out. Now, I'm not saying I was the best player in the history of the world, but I should have gone in at that point. And if, for whatever reason, you know, he said to me that he was protecting me because he didn't think I was quite ready. To which I said, well, if I'm not ready now, I'll never be ready. And that's kind of how the chat went, really, and the rest.
And then, so you went to the manager, you speak to him.
Yeah.
How did that go? Walking into his office.
It was interesting. It was an interesting meeting, to be fair. I think he was pretty surprised. I think he expected me to go in and have a little moan and say, "I told you so," which I probably did, actually. But no, I literally went in and said, "Look, I've had a long weekend thinking about everything, and I wanna go." So he didn't see it come in, pretty surprised. Thought I was joking, actually, at first. And I just said, no, I said, look, it's, you know, that was the catalyst. But actually, if I've been truthful to myself, I just was not enjoying it, really, at the time.
That's quite refreshing to hear, actually, because a lot of people probably wouldn't see that perspective. They'd see you living a boyhood dream, every little kid's dream who likes football in the country. But then, like, not everyone enjoys it. That's just the facts. You can't force someone. Just no amount of money. It can. How do you think you'd feel? Not now, but how do you think you'd feel if you sort of pushed yourself to carry on playing? Do you think you would have come through it and enjoyed it, or do you think it would have just chipped away at you?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Is the honest answer. I look back and you know, you do think. You know, you do think if I would have carried on, what would have happened? But then the other part is, you know, I made the decision at the time based on fact, and as I say, you know, slept pretty easy about it, really.
So after you came back from America, what was the
tanned?
Yeah.
Surfer.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What happened then? What was the next step?
Yeah, so this was the fun bit, really. Literally came back. Bumped into my now wife, who I went to school with, randomly on a night out, and sat there and sort of went, well, what do I do now? You know, I'd put it off as long as possible, and I'd gone back to Solihull College, as I said, in between the coaching in the summers, and got myself a BTEC in business and finance and a HND in sports science. So I got some qualifications, but again, like a lot of students now, I sort of went, well, now what? I don't know. So I was looking at, in between that, actually, I was offered a potential to go over and play in America. Really considered that, and as I say, things got serious with the now wife, so that got knocked on the head. But yeah, it's came back and sort of had to find out what I was going to do, and had to, you know, I was now sort of, you know, probably 21 at this point. Mum and Dad didn't want me living at home forever, and neither did I, to be fair. And with my girlfriend and I said now wife, it was, you know, we needed to sort of crack on and get our own place, but it was sort of, well, what are you going to do to pay for it? In the meantime, I'd started work on a cocktail bar, so a bit of Tom Cruise-ish sort of situation. So I started work now on a cocktail bar. Had a brilliant time, actually. Looking back, it's fantastic. Just working part-time there, earning a few quid while I was back at college, getting my qualifications. And then, very weirdly, one of the waitresses who also worked there, her husband was a massive West Brom fan. Her father-in-law was a massive West Brom fan and season ticket holders. And she said to me, they run a business and they're looking for a sales executive, and I think you'd be great. What do you reckon? And I'd always been quite confident and chatty and all that sort of good stuff. Yeah. And so I knew that was maybe a career I could possibly look at. So I met up with him, and literally within 10 minutes he'd offered me a job. So I'd secured my first job into sales.
So before that came about and you're in that stage where you didn't really know what to do, how did you feel about that? Because that's something that I know for me, when I don't have like a purpose or like something to focus on, that really chips away at me, and it makes me feel you almost feel pointless to a certain extent.
Yeah.
That's how I felt anyway. But how did you feel?
Yeah, you're spot on. It doesn't matter what you do, football or education. Like I say, if you haven't got a clarity of purpose, it's a bit of a struggle. So, typically I was working on the bar on the nights, so it was late night finishes. It was great, lots of drinking, lots of fun, lots of going out, met some cool people. But yeah, that not knowing was very, very difficult. I went back and I was playing for Kidderminster Harriers at the time, who were sort of in the conference, just to earn some money to supplement really again. But that became worse because I couldn't get any form of buzz or excitement in front of playing in front of hundreds of people. That just couldn't, it just gave me no adrenaline. Is probably the best thing. And then went from there, and then went to Moor Green, who is now Solihull Moors, who you probably know, who merged with Solihull Borough. Had a brilliant time there. Actually enjoyed my football for probably 2 years, and that's because we had a brilliant manager, brilliant set of lads. Really enjoyed being back in the, in the changing room. That's the bit you do miss when you're not doing it, and that's a bit I look back now. Fondest, you miss the banter and the camaraderie. So yeah, having a really limited purpose, as I say, I sort of tripped over the getting into sales, but I knew that would be a viable option for me to start building a career outside of football, really.
How do you sort of in your day to day, when you feel like stressed or anxious about anything, do you have like any coping mechanisms that sort of help you get through that sort of thing? Because from my perspective, you seem like one of the most laid-back people I've met. Very talkative, quite chirpy.
No, mate.
But what are we not seeing?
Oh, all sorts, yeah. No, I'm pretty highly strung, to be fair. And having the sport release, that definitely helped me. So how did I get around that? Honestly, couldn't tell you. Looking back, started going to the gym and stuff like that a little bit. Fishing is my escape mechanism.
Okay,
so there you go, a bit of a bizarre one, but I know a load of the players do. So you need something. I didn't play golf. Mine was fishing, same thing. Get in the middle of nowhere, think about nothing, hopefully catch a few fish, catch a bit of sun, and just relax.
Yeah.
And still today, that's probably my one go-to relaxation method, really. I think everyone's got one, or they should have one. That's mine.
That's great though.
Not so handy in the winter though.
Yeah, of course. I used to play golf. Never found it relaxing.
Oh,
never.
No,
I just can't do it. You're hitting the same shot constantly, shanking them off to the right, and I can't find that relaxing. Even when I got relatively good, I just didn't find it relaxing.
No, it would do my. The reason I couldn't do it is if I couldn't be really good at something.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it, and I looked at golf. I've tried a few times, of course I did. But like you said, blimey, there's a million components to hitting a ball. And yeah, I didn't fancy that at all. I'd have ended up snapping far too many golf clubs, to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from it.
So a lot of people, when they get sort of stressed and anxious, a lot of people meditate. I don't know if this is something you've ever tried, but a lot of people do. But it sounds like you going fishing, when you go fishing, you're almost forcing yourself to slow down, aren't you?
Yeah.
And to completely relax.
100%.
So how does that feel? I imagine it's quite.
I should try. Yeah. I'll take you down the canal in a few weeks. No, it's brilliant. I try and some people. There's loads of people. Biggest pastime in the UK, I believe, fishing. There you go. It's just a surprising fact potentially. But when I try and explain it to people who sort of go fishing, you're mad. What are you doing? You're not 95. I say to people, where you go is normally beautiful lakes or beautiful rivers, and it's just the scenery's beautiful. There's just running water if you're on the river, ducks and birds going past. It's very hard to not relax while doing it.
Yeah.
And you're also obviously focusing on the fishing bit from time to time, so you don't have chance to think about the day-to-day stuff and the stresses and the anxiety stuff that comes. So yeah, I guess fishing is my golf. Yeah.
Do you get stressed easily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been. I think it comes with my personal attributes. Were sport-wise were speed and aggression. So I loved getting stuck in. and always have been very, very competitive. And again, to play football or any elite sport, you have to be competitive, and you have to be, wired to not like losing, as you just won't make it in whatever the industry. So I don't like losing too much at anything. Monopoly, darts, kiddywink, whatever it is.
You never lost that competitive edge.
No, it's still cheap when I'm playing against the kids now, so can't help it. I've always been very, very competitive, and I guess you have to have a little bit of fire to do that.
Yeah, of course. But that helps you get through difficult times as well. I think having that sort of drive system within you, that definitely can help.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I look back at the lessons that football's taught me, and the opportunities I've been given, and there's some brilliant transferable skills there. I think I'd recommend any sport, any team sport, to anyone. Doesn't matter how good you are or whatever, is irrelevant. I think getting involved in sport is a brilliant thing, but if you can get involved in team sport, it teaches you a lot about camaraderie, banter. You get involved in a lot of good fun as well, meet some great people, but accountability as well. And I think what's helped me, progress from a business point of view is people management. I'm sure my team will disagree and they'll be sat there shaking their head, but on a serious note, I think you realise very quickly within a team environment that leadership can be done very different ways. Some people lead from the front quietly, some people scream and shout, some people beat the chest. So I've seen lots of different ways, and different things work for different people. So I think when you've been involved in captain sides and play for your counties and all this sort of stuff, you realise that it takes different things to motivate different people. Yeah. And to be good at a team sport, you've got to be a bit of a team player, to be fair. And I think those qualities really translate into work life, personal life, and have helped me massively, to be fair. It's
emotional intelligence, isn't it? It's like you said, no leadership style works for everyone. And now what is your role now? You're obviously working in recruitment.
Yeah, so I'm a joint owner and MD of recruitment business in Birmingham. So there's 13 of us, and we're pretty rapidly growing, really. So I only launched it 2 years back. So yeah, all the same things: motivation, accountability. When things aren't going well, there's many ways to try and work it out and get people. People don't hang around if they don't like you, if they don't trust you, if you don't support them, and all those sorts of qualities massively transferable.
From the work perspective, sorry, I was doing some research the other day.
Oh, that's worrying.
Not about culture, don't worry.
Right, brilliant.
I found that one in 7 people experience mental health problems at work, which affects them doing their job. And the average amount of sick days for people per year is about 7 days, and 40% of those are because of mental health issues. Yeah. Do you? Obviously, I don't want to invade anyone's privacy, but do you find that has that ever come up within your workspace?
Yeah, I've seen it. Not a current one, to be fair. But yeah, I see it all the time. We're talking to candidates, being a recruitment business, we're talking to candidates and people all the time. Yeah. And a lot of the reasons for them wanting to move jobs is, frankly, they're not happy. Now, it can be a variety of reasons. But yeah, I think those stats you told me, I think it's probably even worse than that, if I'm brutally honest. I think it's an evolving thing. It's the buzzword now in employment, in recruitment. Yeah. Everything now is about staff well-being, mental health. There's loads of great stuff. It's a little bit like, as I say, it's the go-to subject now that everybody wants to now talk about, which is great. I think it's could have and should have happened many years ago, and it's a key area.
Yeah, of course. Sort of coming away from the negative emotions, I want to talk about positive ones as well.
Right, let's have fun.
What makes you happy? I know it's a very broad question, but
Jesus.
Yeah.
Not Jesus. What makes me happy? Oh God, I think that's a lifetime's question and work, isn't it? I don't know.
Or maybe to rephrase that, do you have like a not to sound cheesy, but like a happy ending, I suppose?
Blimey! Yeah, the way this is going, we are. I think for me, and again, it sounds awful, but the older you get, things change and your priorities change, and the way you look at stuff. happiness for me now is about my kids being happy and having a good roof over their head and nice holidays and being in a loving environment and you know, the wife being happy occasionally, which is nice, work in progress. Just being content and happy, and for me, genuinely, it's about trying to become stress free. I know that's the topic kind of here, and feelings and stuff, but you know, pressure and stress isn't good for anybody, and it's got, you know, really not great connotations. So for me, it's just about being happy, being around good people, a bit like you said. You know, speaking, you know, being blokes, I can go months without speaking to my best circle of friends because we're all busy, right? In fact, longer than that. But I know that when I pick the phone up, we can have a laugh. We'll cry laughing about the same old shit stories that make us laugh every time. But it's just those simple things, really. Just having a good group of people around you who you can talk to, you know, genuinely, and yeah, that's me.
Do material things make you happy?
No, I don't think they do. In general, again, age helps kind of work this stuff out. I'll caveat that very nicely with the fact that to have nice stuff is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And what, you know, that's what I'm striving to do. And but to have no financial pressure is my goal, really. Not the size of the house or, you know, the bigger the mortgage, because I think, you know, you can go out and pretty much buy anything you like, but whether you can afford it is another thing. So I've always, again, quite fortunate that my approach has always been, you know, if I can't afford it, I won't have it. So I've never fell into that trap that I think a lot of people do, you know, for right or wrong reasons, really. So I've always been quite fortunate, and but no, I don't think material things do. I think, you know, they're nice to have, and they make life easier for sure. But no, I don't think that brings happiness now.
What if I gave you £1 million? No, I haven't got that.
I thought you were giving me that for turning up today.
No, if I gave you that, would that make you any happier?
I don't know. It would mean I'd pay my mortgage off and probably buy a house or two abroad and spend more time on holiday. So would that make me happier with, you know, being able to do that sort of stuff for me and the family? Probably.
It depends how you spend it, doesn't it? Obviously.
Yeah. It would make life easier, I think, for sure.
I think that the novelty would wear off eventually. But like you said, it depends. It depends how you spend it. If you spend it on sort of smaller things, I found that doing some more research, I found statistically.
You're not a millionaire, are you?
No, I'm afraid
sure?
not.
Oh.
Quite the opposite. I'm a student. I found that spending money on frequent and smaller things, such as like meeting up with friends, going out for a drink, going out eating, rather than saving up and having like a big holiday or every 2 years or every year.
Yeah.
Statistically, those smaller things make you happier in the long run, just because they sort of provide you a bit more of a life balance, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you think you have that sort of work-life balance there?
No, not yet. No, I'm working on that. It's a work in progress. On a serious note, it's being a business owner now is the hardest thing I've ever done. Lots of sleepless nights, plenty of stress, salaries. You know, you're responsible for people's salaries and houses and families, and so trust me, that does come with, you know, with a decent amount of stress. But we try and balance that off with having as much fun as possible. So we've got, you know, we have a great culture at Culture, and that's key to us. And myself and my business partner, we've worked together now for 15 years. And I'd probably, the first thing I say to people is we laugh every day. We absolutely cry laughing most days. So we've got a culture where, you know, it's as laid back as possible, while still being commercial. Else we'll be out of business and people won't have jobs.
Yeah.
But actually having fun and a good laugh has always been key to me, back from the sport days to now. Fun, team around you, enjoying yourselves. And I think if people are happy and having fun, you get a better performance anyway.
Yeah.
Again, whether that's sport or business, doesn't matter. So we're always trying to drive, you know, the fun aspect. And I think you were saying, personally now, coming back to giving it a bit of thought about the money stuff, for birthdays and Christmases now, I don't want a nice pair of jeans or a coat or a pair of shoes or whatever it is, because if I want that, I can get it.
Yeah.
But I much prefer to go and do experiential stuff. So weekends away with me and the wife or with the kids, going places, doing stuff. So it sounds very cheesy, but experience-based stuff, that's the fun bit for me.
But
So
they're the things you'll remember.
yeah, 100%.
When you're 60, 70 years old, you're not going to remember that pair of jeans that you got.
You won't remember much, probably. No, you're absolutely right. No, it's pointless chasing that sort of stuff. So yeah, bad experiences.
Yeah. A big question.
Right.
Just to sort of come towards the end with a bit of positivity. What about yourself are you most proud of?
God.
You don't have to be humble either.
I'm trying. I'm trying to just think of one, Liam. What am I most proud of? I try and do my best for people. I really do. I'll support people wherever I can. I do a lot of charity stuff. I've sort of, again, I've come to a point where I know who my really good friends are, so I'm very, very comfortable in myself. I feel very lucky, very blessed that I've got a circle of people and family and friends around me that I could rely on. That, you know, if it hit the fan at any point, things would be cool. And I'd do anything for most people, to be fair. And that's probably, you know, work hard to provide for my family, because so I want them to just have a really good life and have lots of great opportunities and be as lucky as I've been.
Do you care about what people think about you?
No.
On the outside?
No, never have, to be honest. And again, that's a really good point. I feel very, very fortunate that I've always been pretty comfortable and confident in my own skin. I realised a long time ago that not everyone's going to like you. You cannot please everybody. You know, if you look at anything in life, you can't. You've just got to be yourself, be true to yourself, be authentic. And yeah, as I say, if people don't like me, that's cool. That's up to them. You know, as long as a few people do, and I feel I'm doing the right stuff, then I'll sleep easy with that. Yeah.
You're an amicable. Oh Christ, can't
It's
think
easy
of
for you
words.
to say.
Amicable man, Jamie. Thank you very much for joining me
Pleasure,
on the
mate.
Football and Feelings podcast. We'll probably round it up there. I'm going to post some useful links in the description for like mental health charities and good coping mechanisms and things like that. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you again, Jamie.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you
Good
very
luck with
much.
it. Cheers.
Cheers.